Welcome back, everyone, to a very early morning here in southwest France. And as you can see, packing is ongoing and my office is nearly empty, although I haven't I haven't put away my drawing materials because, quite frankly, I need something to keep me sane at the moment. So I'm doing a lot of packing and a lot of completing of customs forms and correspondence with the notaire here and the solicitor in Scotland, and I'm not really sleeping. So, in between packing and napping, I am gardening and trying to draw to keep me calm. And it's been dreadful. If you could see my desk here, this desk is covered with bank statements and paperwork to try and prove they were not money launderers. Never thought I'd actually say that, but there you go. So, what are the key details about this property? Well, it's a 4-bed semi-detached. Go to the end of the video and see the update regarding that. It has outstanding uninterrupted sea views, and although it looks like a traditional cottage, it is actually quite modern inside. So the price that it's been advertised at is offers over £295,000. So why did we pick the Isle of Arran? Well, we looked all down the west coast from as far up north as the Isle of Skye and along the Ayrshire coast and along Argyllshire. And the thing with Arran is that at the moment, and we're talking late 2024, at the moment we have issues with the ferry services which are provided by Caledonian McBrain, CalMac, and the ferries are in the main getting old, and this is causing a little bit of disruption, together with the natural disruption that is caused by unseasonable weather and storms, which are a feature wherever you live in an island. So house prices as a result of that on the island are quite reasonable for the kind of property that we were looking at. And we like nature in the countryside. We've always lived in the countryside, and moving from rural France with 5 acres of ground back to Scotland, we were looking for something with less land, but that was still in the countryside. And bearing in mind the age that we are, we thought it would be quite nice to have a view so that when we're a few years older and we are sitting in the chair looking out the window, we would have a nice view to look at. So that was the main criteria. Obviously, the other thing is money. And I'll be dead honest with you. Houses in France are a lot cheaper than houses in the UK. So we knew we were going to have to be careful with what we were looking at. And the exchange rate at the moment, late 2024, means that when we exchange euros back to sterling, we are going to lose quite a bit in the conversion. And we had to bear that in mind as well. So that influenced our decision about what price range we were looking at. The other thing to bear in mind is in Scotland, the way that houses are sold, they are either advertised as a fixed price or they're advertised at offers over. Now, normally this means that you're looking at around 10% over, and we have actually paid slightly more than that because there was considerable interest in the property. So what would you get on an island for about £295,000. Well, you're really talking about a cottage that needs work done to it, a renovation project, something with a small garden, something that maybe doesn't have parking. So just bear that in mind if you are looking for a property similar to this property. So apart from the purchase price of your property, you need to bear in mind as well things like your solicitor's fees and stamp duty, which is a tax that is paid on the purchase price of your property, and that goes directly to the government. So the other thing is removal fees. For us moving from France to Scotland is about £3,000. So that's quite a lot of money, but there's no getting around it, and it didn't matter whereabouts we were moving in Scotland, we had to pay the removal fees. We will also have a small amount of storage fees, because the issue with the ferries at the moment, whether they're on, whether they're off, whether the weather is inclement, we have decided to store our furniture and personal belongings on the mainland, and we will probably hire a small box van to take them over piecemeal on the ferries in the first few days when we arrive. So, things that you've got to be aware of. Why did we pick Lochranza on the island? Well, Lochranza is a small village. There are about 200 inhabitants, and there are more people around us in Lochranza than there are around us here in France. And as we get older, we wanted to have a little bit of community feeling. And also there is another ferry terminal in Lochranza that, in addition to the main one at Brodick, which goes to either Ardrossan or Troon, the one at Lochranza takes you over to Argyll. It's a shorter crossing, it's not as dependent on the weather, and if we get stuck, then we've got that as a backup plan if we need to get back over to the mainland for anything. So, Lochranza also has a community pub and shopping facilities about 15 minutes drive away in Brodick. So, there's lots of wildlife in and around Lochranza. There are golden eagles across the loch, and there are red deer around the property. We have abundant natural resources in the loch itself, so we're hoping to buy a boat and do some fishing, stocking the freezer up with mackerel, possibly lobster, you never know. And we just really like the area, so we're going with the gut feeling for that. So a little bit more about the house. I have attached the floor plan, and you can see that one of the bedrooms is quite small. It will probably end up being my office, and we will be looking at installing solar panels, either proper electric solar panels or just solar hot water panels. We like to be as resourceful and sustainable as possible. So that is a big thing for us, and we will be looking at that very shortly after we move. And I think the only other thing that I've got to tell you is the development plans for the attached cottage. So before we put our offer in for this cottage, we had been made aware of the fact that the attached cottage, which is in a pretty derelict state, the owners of that had been granted a building warrant and planning permission to demolish that cottage and to build a brand new detached house 3 metres away from the cottage that we would like to buy. We sat and had a look at the plans. I travelled to North Ayrshire to speak to the planning department regarding that, and assured myself that yes, it would be a good thing if the derelict cottage was in fact demolished, and that I was quite happy with the fact that they were going to build a new detached cottage, which would make our cottage detached, which will only increase the value. Apart from that, it will also mean that the owners of the other cottage have to make good what was the party wall, the wall between the two cottages. They are going to make that good, resurface that, which will mean that we will not get any water ingress from the derelict cottage. That's quite confusing, but I know what I mean with that. So knowing that, we were prepared to put up with demolition next door and lots of building work going on, because ultimately in a year or two's time we will have a detached property, and that will only increase our property value. So yes, it's a bit of a risk, but we're looking at the long-term gain for it. So I'm not going to put any plans up at this stage, but in future videos, I will be videoing the demolition and the building work, and of course, the finished result. So yes, it's going to mean a bit of disruption, but we're prepared for that. So yes, we're still looking forward to moving. Yes, we understand that there's going to be an awful lot of work in progress right next door to us, but we're looking at the bigger picture and we're quite happy with that.